I just watched a taped program, and it was a program about mistresses and wives, and the mistresses seemed to want to educate wives as to what they were doing wrong. And I found it very amusing that many, many wives didn't want to hear. It infuriated them so much that husbands would go outside the marriage for affection and attention. And I found that very unusual, that they took such offense, because I've never been the other woman, ever. I've never been the other woman. But I have been subject to having that happen. And what that other person gave to that then partner of mine was something I no longer was able to give, because of perhaps emotional and spiritual immaturity. Maybe narcissism as well, wrapped up in me and my life and my career. And that person gave them more than I could. They gave them simple things, actually. They gave them attentiveness. They not only listened, but they heard what this person was saying, and how they were expressing themselves. They locked out the entire world and everything just to center in to that person's emotional needs. And physical, later on, became very physical relationship. I used to be this person's best friend before we got into a relationship. And I realized that I destroyed that relationship myself. Little by little, I locked myself into certain boxes, and I was not willing to do as he could. You know, once you'd start cuddling and kissing, he could block everything in the world out, and everything we were doing was the center of the universe, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And I couldn't. I didn't have the capacity to do that any longer. When we were dating, I did. And after we started living together, I don't know if it was the routine or what happened, but definitely I can understand where these people were coming from. You know, he was surrounded by people that doll themselves up every day with perfume and everything else. I, on the other hand, was doing a job where I was out in the woods all day, or climbing a mountain, or I was coming home dirty. And but you know, he saw me both ways. He saw me how I presented myself in a professional way, and also in what I was doing, you know, as being a guide, a mountaineering guide, and a teen consultant of teen activities in the wilderness. He liked them both, but you know, I blame myself for the deterioration of that relationship. That dissolved, and that person is now very happy with the other person that they met, and I'm glad, because that he was a good friend of mine, and I let him down not only as a friend, as a partner, and a lover, and perhaps even wife. But you know, we're still friends, and we all make mistakes. I made the biggest mistake at that time. And I met someone else through the mountaineering, thank goodness, because it's not a normal profession. You know, so these people didn't meet me all foo-foo, she dressed up perfume. In fact, the first time that my now husband saw me with makeup and my hair all fixed in perfect clothing, he said it quite intimidated him. It quite intimidated him. And what really, let's say, attracted him to me was not only that my personality and what I was doing at the time of life I was doing it, and my energy and everything. It was that I didn't seem to care what I looked like at any given moment. And I wasn't trying to impress anyone. You know, no one. And we started a friendship in mountaineering, and so on and so forth. And but we spent 7 years getting to know each other 2 years of which we lived together, and the last 7 years we've been married together. And I noticed something. In our dating period, we had some spectacular dates. We had some weekends that were just out of this world. We had some very high quality, intimate time together. And when we lived together, the first 2 years, we were still having much of that. We got married, and the routine of life, I had to give up my mountaineering because I have a problem with my back, and I could not achieve insurance certificates to insure my job. So a mountaineer is only, you can't be a mountaineering guide without certain insurances, and you have to pass certain physical criteria for that. And because you're putting a group at risk, not your own life, but groups of people, and I miss that very much. But I had to readjust my entire life again to a new country. I didn't speak the language. That was a good challenge for us. It brought us together as well. But we also fell into a routine. And what I noticed with affection, I'm a very affectionate person, and I love to cuddle. I love to cuddle. I used to be a cat. I know I used to be a cat in a different life, because I can cuddle like nobody's business. But I noticed that of the 100% of the time that we would cuddle, he would become aroused 100% of the time in a sexual way. However, I was not responding that way anymore. I was responding 60% and 50, then 40 and then 30. Some days was better. Sometimes I had a higher percentage of response. But I realized it was actually up to me. He had not changed so much. I was changing. I noticed that I started judging myself according to the television and the magazines and all of that. And I decided to ask him some pointed questions, because he doesn't like to waste money on marriage counseling. He says, if you can't be mature enough to fix it between yourselves, as friends, lovers, husband and wife, then perhaps you shouldn't be together. And so I asked him pointed questions. I said, at that point, when we're being affectionate and cuddly, and it starts to turn more toward a more sexual content for yourself, what do you feel from me when that doesn't transpire? And he says, I feel resistance, and I don't know why. I don't know if you're in emotional trouble. I don't know if you're in physical trouble. I don't know if you just would prefer not to. And I said, you never ask. You respectfully leave it at the cuddling, or you change the subject, or we go in and we like to cook, and we go in and cook something together. And I said, these mistresses have it right in an aspect. What a man wants at some point, and my husband said, do you know what I get from our sexual encounter besides the obvious? And I said, no, tell me. And he said, when we're together sexually, it's built to that point where we're physically in that place. He said, I have to drop all my defenses. I have to drop every single item that's in my mind that's not just you and I. I have to release all those things in order to have the peace, joy, and fulfillment of what we're partaking of. And I was like, wow, that is what I'm resisting. I'm resisting letting go of all of that. And I've been there before. And I went, that's it. What I need to do is, when those times come, and now they come a lot more frequently, I need to examine myself in a split second and say, why are you being resistant? And realize that it's not his problem. He's willing, able. You just have to dive into that water. And so it has been my prerogative to go forward from there. I found those suggestions to be wonderful, but I prefer to have a picnic on a mountainside with my husband and a nice long walk and come back at the end of the day and take a shower and enjoy each other's company the way we used to when we were dating. In that space where he can drop everything, and so can I now, and dive into that bubble where nothing else exists but our bond together. And I think that's where a lot of marriages are failed. We're too of a narcissistic society where it starts to become me, 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 and he doesn't understand, and blah, 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 blah. And it's really actually quite simple. But I still can't get over the fact that these women, these mistresses, got slammed so hard when they were actually trying to give just a little bit more, I found to be valid information. Now, I don't condone this having affairs. I don't condone any of that. I think it's a terrible thing to happen, but there are reasons for it happening. You know, that if you marry the kind of guy that's on that stage, you had better stay up on your game and keep him on his toes, because he is going to leave you flat if you become clingy, if you become whiny, if you are not, because the only kind of woman that's going to really keep him at her side is independent, alpha as he is, sexual as he is, and active as he is toward each other. And spontaneity will play a role in that as well. But my husband and I, we are not alphas. I don't know where we fall, beta, gamma, or whatever. We're different. We're strange. But he's made me realize that our lovemaking is one of the most sacred bonds in our marriage, in our human existence, that people can share. And one partner should never deny the other partner that sacred bond, that deep bond. You know, if he were denying me that because he had found another partner, it might be a long time before I found out if I were narcissistic and not paying attention. I love my husband. His happiness means everything to me. I've said that many times, but I now realize I have to work at that. He's not happy if I go to bed with him out of obligation. Out of what? He has even said, but if you feel obligated, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to go to that place with you, feeling obligated. I'd rather not. I'm very fortunate to have a husband that's mature and talks openly about this. It doesn't mean he won't stray. It doesn't mean he's not going to reach a period where the younger Spicer, and believe me, there are a lot of girls out there tripping over themselves looking for men like my husband. He's a wonderful man. I'm not in competition with them. I have to work on myself and be happy with inside of me. And the more he sees that self-confidence, the more he's attracted to me. And the more I'm willing to dive into that oblivion, that bond, he's very happy and content, and so am I. So that's all I wanted to say, and I'm going to get off here. And I just wish some of these women would take a self-examination and not slam these mistresses so much. Their information, I do believe, came from a source of wanting to help. But I hope the mistresses realize, if the women do take to heart your suggestions, you guys are going to be a little short of clientele. You know, you're going to be a little short of company. Those husbands aren't going to go to you. They're going to come home to their wives. Anyway, I'm going to say goodbye now. That's all I've got to say.